Hey guys, Matt Luce here with the Luce Home Team and King Real Estate Group. Today we are interviewing Clinton Betchen with Betchen Home Inspections. This guy is a magnificent, if I can use that word, home inspector. My wife and I love using him. We've used many home inspectors in the past, but we've really settled on him. And so today I invited him to come in just to talk to him about the home industry and what it looks like from an inspector's point of view. So, Clinton, with that being said, do you mind telling us a little about yourself?
Okay, yeah, my name is Clinton Betchen, Betchen Home Inspections. Live up in the Guthrie area, but service most of the Oklahoma City metro and then some of the outstanding surrounding areas of the area. So, yeah, we'll kind of go do about a 1 hour radius around Oklahoma City metro.
What was your background before you started as a home inspector?
So I worked in the environmental civil construction field for literally 28 years. Worked for a lot of oil and gas, chemical companies, did a lot of remediation projects all over the US. And so that was kind of it. Go out there, clean it up, civil construction, rebuild after we got the properties all cleaned up. That's kind of what we did.
So you say that, like, for example, let's say an oil spill or oil rig. Uh,
No, it wasn't like oil rig, but it was like legacy cleanup stuff. So back in the day before the EPA mandate, a lot of sites they would just dump all their waste out
I got
back,
you.
lead waste, chemical waste, things like that. So after years of just sitting there, sometimes 60, 70, 80 years, it would just sit there. And so EPA mandated cleanups. They would come in, they would bring in contractors. I would usually work for the engineering company contractors and oversee a lot of the projects there, and usually would manage about anywhere from 20 to 35 guys doing heavy construction, bulldozers, track hoes, semi trucks with dumping capacity and haul off, and um, environmental waste disposal. So just kind of oversaw the day to day as a construction project manager.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. What made you decide to get into the real estate industry?
Um, I'd always been intrigued by real estate. My father owned a couple rental properties when I was younger. And just back in 1999, a neighbor said, "Hey, I'm going to be selling my house, going to be moving to something smaller, going to go a little more assisted living. Would you be interested in buying it?" So I just, that was the first encounter in real estate. 1999, bought my first house and had a goal to buy one once a year, but it didn't turn out that way. But over the years, I've acquired a few rental properties and just kind of been good to me for the last, here we are 26 years later.
I can definitely relate to that. My wife and I set that goal as well. We picked up a rental property a few years back, but trying to get one every year doesn't always,
Right,
play out.
right.
So, how many years have you been inspecting homes now?
I've just finished up and about to finish up year number 9, about to start year number 10. Done about 5,400 home inspections in that
Wow.
9 year span. So, um, first couple of years, you got to get established, and you don't do that many. I think my first year I did 78, but then the next year I did like 226, and now we're doing about average about 800 a year.
Wow. How many employees do you have working for you?
I have 2 employees. My son works for me. He kind of followed in my footsteps a little bit. He had an industrial safety background. He worked for some big companies, and he decided one day, "Hey, Dad, I want to try this. Let's do this." So he's been with me now, and I have another 1099 employee. She's kind of like in the real estate field, the transaction coordinator. She works behind the scenes, does all my report editing and things like that from the cloud. And then if we have a big house, she'll come out and help us also. So she's been my longest tenured employee. She's coming on about 7.5, almost 8 years here.
Now, is this something that you think your son will inherit at some point, take
I,
over?
I would hope he would take over the family business
Yeah.
one day. I'm no spring chicken anymore, but yeah, it's a good field. long as you take care of the business and build it up and do a good job, with realtors out there, it's a very, very, very good career.
Well, I'll tell you, my wife and I really enjoy the way you and your employees relate to our clients and really explain the details to them of, here's some situations, here's some issues, and you guys are always there to take their phone calls and respond, and we really appreciate that.
I think it sometimes is they're buying the biggest purchase of their life,
Absolutely.
and they just want to know what they are getting into. So, um, thorough, detailed inspection. We'll kind of like go over some of the maintenance tips, talk about, is this a real, you know, critical thing that needs to be done, or like painting. We just tell people budget for painting about every 7 years. You take care of that painting around your house. That can do a lot. Big ticket dollar items, as you know, roofs, heat and
Hmm.
air, hot water heaters, big ticket dollar items are one of those things that you want to save up, save a little bit of money, think about the home warranty line out there, and just that normal maintenance of your house, caulking windows and painting are some of those good things that just take care of that house. It's your biggest investment out there.
That's really good information to know. Okay, so what would you tell your viewers the main purpose of a home inspection is from a seller's perspective?
From a seller's perspective, is if you want to get a pre-listing inspection before you put that house on the market, you want to know if there's anything major out there. Like I said, the roof, the heat and air units. Sometimes we see collapsed ductwork, but you wouldn't want to know, you would want to know before you put that house on the market what it's going to cost you to get that thing fixed. Because once you put it on the market, you're usually under a time crunch. You're either moving for a job situation, you need a bigger house, um, kids, and you don't want to be under the gun of having to have that stuff repaired like in 2 weeks before the closing in a month. So get those things fixed up, get the painting and stuff done, all of those things out there. Get your house in tip-top shape. Just simple as curb appeal, getting the trees trimmed and the lawn mowed up front sometimes can create that aesthetics out there, and it in turn gives them more money on the return side when you go to sell. If people know your house has been taken care of, I think they're sometimes more willing to pay a little bit more for a house that they know has been taken care of.
That's a really good point. And as well, I think for those pre-inspections, uh, there are a lot of times things going on at a home that the homeowner isn't aware of. And so sometimes when you guys come out and you do those inspections, it just kind of reveals things to them. So it's not like all of a sudden they're coming down to crunch time and the home's
Yeah,
inspected and some big ticket item pops up that they didn't know about. So that's really a good idea.
yeah.
Where are we at here? So what do you look at, or what do you look for in a home inspection?
Typically, there's 8 areas of the home inspection: structure. Are there any foundation cracks, settlement on it? Exterior, like I said, we've been looking for the paint, wood rot, windows, broken seals, and then roof and attic. Like I said, roof can be one of the biggest ticket dollar items out there. I had a 5,000 square foot house this last week, and they said they just put a new $63,000 roof on. Well, um, that purchase right there, if you don't have insurance or you've got an insurance deductible out there, that can be a big expense. Appliances, we're going to be looking at all the appliances, running them through a full functionality check out there. Is the dishwasher running correctly? Garbage disposal, oven, is it heating up? Is the element bad? Those are the appliances. We're going to run the plumbing. Now, a home inspection is visual and accessible. We can't see behind the walls, but we try to run the water. As soon as we walk in the door, we turn on all the waters, make sure we don't have backups and things like that. Electrical, we're required to remove the electrical panel. We go around with all of the testers, testing all the outlets. Are they grounded properly? Are they wired correctly? There's some recalled electrical panels out there. We're looking for that in the electrical side. Um, Heat and air, we're going to run the heating and cooling systems through a full cycle. Check, are we getting the proper temperature differentials on it? So that, and then just the overall general condition of the interior, checking for unevenness in flooring, are the walls banged in and things like that. So those are the 8 areas that we're required under the Construction Industries Board to look for.
Well, that's good information to know. But real quick question for you. So when you're talking about the foundation issue on a home,
Mhm.
is it typical in Oklahoma to run into foundation issues on homes?
Oh, absolutely. With this Oklahoma clay soil we have, it's very expansive in this dry summer that we had this last summer of 2024. We saw a lot of movement. So just simple things as watering your foundation twice a week for 20 minutes.
Hmm.
But if you see that separation, you start to see those cracks around your garage door frames, brick or cracking and stuff. Typically, if you can get your hand in the crack of that settlement, it's probably going to need evaluation for peer work out there. So this Oklahoma clay expansive soil just moves a lot. So those are some of the things that we're looking for. That structure, you start to see cracks in the stem walls, then
Mhm.
those are some issues. Now, if a house has a crawl space, I crawled up one last week. It had had some foundation work done, but they'd had a plumbing leak and it was still moving because the bracing supports underneath the column support
Hmm.
were moving and it had gaps in the floor joist support bracing under the house. So those are some of the things that we look for on slab house and then conventional crawl space.
So let me ask you this, because there are often times that my wife and I get out and we're showing homes, and you can tell that there's been peer work, and sometimes that scares clients when they see there's peer work. Now, what are your thoughts on that? If a client, if there was peer work done, is that something that?
Actually, that's a good thing that it's been done because most of the foundation companies around, um, they'll carry a warranty with that work that they've done. So um,
And
you'll
typically that's a transferable lifetime warranty, I
yes,
guess.
absolutely. Just consult with the seller, and a lot of times they'll have that paperwork.
So that's nothing to be scared of then, if it.
Typically not. If it was done by a very reputable company,
Mhm.
then yes.
Okay, good deal. Um, what standards do you follow when it comes to home inspection?
In the state of Oklahoma, we have to pass a Construction Industries Board is our regulating body for that. We have to take a 90-hour class, and then we have to pass a 200, I believe it's a 200 question national exam. So you basically have to know the standards of inspecting throughout the nation. And then that, once you pass that test, then you get licensed through the state here in Oklahoma through the Construction Industries Board. And then it's a annual renewal of 8 hours of continuing education through the Construction Industries Board.
That sounds pretty intense. Is it hard to?
The initial test is very, very difficult once you understand the national stuff out
Uh,
there, but it keeps a lot of people that aren't knowledgeable kind of away from the business. Would you want somebody um, out there who's not well versed in the background of construction or know things
yeah,
about houses and
absolutely
stuff?
not. Yeah.
So that's kind of the reason they put that out there. The Construction Industries Board, they cover a lot of the other trades too, plumbing, electrical, roofing, things like that. So it's in the best benefit. There are some states who have no licensing standards at all.
Well, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah,
That's kind of scary.
yep. I believe Colorado's one where you can just basically say you're an inspector and get out there
Hmm.
and start inspecting houses.
That's really scary. Now, do these standards also apply to commercial real estate as well, or is it a different set of
Well,
standards?
you would think, but there are no standards for being a commercial
Really?
inspector at all.
And you do some commercial stuff as well.
Yes, yes. We have several investors who
Mhm.
buy commercial properties and stuff, and so we do quite a few a year. We probably do 30 to 50 commercial inspections a year out there. You just have to remember on the commercial side, you've got a lot bigger ticket dollar items.
Oh
The heat
yeah.
and air units are, they could be 20 to $50,000. You've got
Wow.
electrical work that, on a typical house, you could do a easily spend 5 to 10,000 on a residence, whereas electrical on a commercial building could easily be 40, 50. Even with some of these marijuana grows, they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to retrofit the electrical on these buildings.
Wow, that's information to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. And what would you say, just like the average time on a home inspection?
Typically, on about a 2,000 square foot house or less, it should take around 2 hours. Um, we've got a pretty good system where we start inside the house, start in the kitchen, and then just make our way through, like on a clockwise rotation there. Take everything. We have iPads. We document everything for the report. We'll put all the information in the report there. So the report format we have, we call it almost idiot proof, because you just go down through the list, check the boxes in each section, in the plumbing and the electrical section. And if you go room by room through a house, now if it hasn't been a maintained house, yeah, it could take 3 hours, and then all depending on the size. We did a 6,000 square foot house yesterday, actually, and three of us, it took 3 hours. So 9 total man hours to do a
Wow.
6,000 square foot house
Wow.
out in Yukon area yesterday.
Huh. Do you typically do them by yourself, or or it
If
depends on?
they start getting up over 2,500, 3,000, we'll bring 2 of us out there on a house, kind of make it go there. The realtors don't like to be there for 4, 5, 6 hours.
I can relate.
We
Yeah.
had a realtor tell us the other day that just a little 2,500 square foot house, another company come out and they had 2 guys, and it took them over 6.5 hours to do the inspection. And we know realtors' time is valuable also, so we kind of believe in that model too there. But you can typically do a very thorough inspection in about 2 hours
And
if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and my wife and I really appreciate that. We do.
Yeah.
So this is just kind of, off the cuff type deal, but here, I always see these funny memes on social media about in-laws just kind of breathing down your neck. Does that really relate in the industry?
It is out there. We see, dads helping out with his daughter buying her first house, and he comes and kind of follows it around. I actually welcome it, because I want them to know that I have checked everything in that house. And so when they move into that house, that if something breaks after 2 months, well, they were there and they saw me that I checked that. They saw me peel open that HVAC system and kind of look inside. They saw me open up that electrical panel. They saw me running the water throughout the house. They saw me climb in the attic and crawl to the back there. And I've actually had a few parents follow me into the attic and crawl all the way up in there.
Really?
So, yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. I actually had buyers crawl in the crawl space with me before. So they're paying for the inspection. It's their time. So I totally welcome it. Whereas some other inspectors don't, but they're paying for my service, and I totally welcome it.
Wow, I would never guess that. Sometimes you think that, it'd be more of a nuisance than anything, but
It's sometimes where the people say, "Hey, my brother-in-law's an electrician," but then he thinks he knows everything about the whole house, and those are the ones that sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, there's a little scratch in the paint there on the house. Are you going to write that up?" Well, cosmetic deficiencies aren't really part of the
gotcha.
standards of practice out there, and everybody's typically going to repaint a house and things like that. But it's major defects are definitely things that we're looking for in a home inspection.
Gotcha. Let me see here. Just a couple more questions here for you. Have you ever told clients that you recommend they not purchase a particular home because of how bad the inspections were?
Typically, we're not really allowed to tell people that they should not buy this house. It's all of the data comes out in the report and stuff, and then they're supposed to consult with their realtor of what they think this should be, because a lot of times we don't know what on the side of the TRR is. What are they going to ask for to get fixed? Now, a lot of times we don't know, is it an as-is deal? Well, if you've got something major like foundation that's going to cost $6,000 or $8,000 and it's an as-is deal, well, that should be included in the cost. But we don't know what the final negotiation is. Are they going to come off the price? Are they as is? And that's some of the things out there that all factor into that buying a house. But we typically see about 3 to 5 houses a year that literally it's almost
Too bad.
too
Yeah.
bad.
No, and I will
Yeah.
tell you, I think this is my 10th year as a realtor, and I think in 10 years there's probably been maybe two houses where,
Yeah.
after the inspection was done, I've just kind of told my clients, hey, there are other houses that are probably in better condition.
Yeah. Yeah. And typically when they call us back or if they decide not to purchase that and they go with the next house, 99% of the time the realtor finds them a better house if that first deal does not go through. So
Yeah,
it's, sometimes it's divine intervention that, let's move on and look at another house out there.
that's a good way
But
of looking
I
at it.
think sometimes people think that, the $350, $400 that they spend on the home inspection is lost money. But I have other realtors tell me it's the best money ever spent to not buy a house, because if that money and you get into a house and it's going to cost you 10, 15, even $20,000 to do repairs, and that $400 for that home inspection, then if you walked away, then you just saved
Oh,
$20,000. And
absolutely.
so a lot of people, I feel bad that sometimes they have to pay for another inspection, but I think the most we've ever done is like 4 inspections for a young lady one time, and we just kept finding, bad roofs that nobody would fix or foundation problems and things like that. So, um,
We've had a client, I think, that's had you do 3 inspections so
yeah,
far.
yeah,
But I agree with you, because so often, I mean, the amount of money people are paying on the house, it's a big expense. It really
yeah,
is.
yeah,
And the last thing we want our clients to do is get into a home where, all of a sudden they've got all these hidden repairs and stuff that they got
yeah,
to do
yeah,
because, and I'm sure you've related to this as well, where you walk into a home to do an inspection, the home looks really good. You can tell there's fresh paint, new carpet, but then all of a sudden, as you get into it, there's a lot of underneath things going on
yeah,
that.
yeah. And those are those ancillary services out there, scoping of the plumbing lines,
Mhm.
scoping of the ductwork if it does have slab ductwork out there. And so some of those are the other things, but we kind of look for that. And then if the sewer needs scoped, then spend that extra 250, $300 for that, because we hear $8,000 to $12,000 just to replace the sewer line to the main in the backyard. Um, it's well worth that money to spend that on there.
And I'll tell you, that's one thing I really appreciate about you guys, is that when you suspect that's going on, you always recommend, hey, you might want to have this line scope, or you might want to have, we looked at the roof. Here's our thoughts on it, but you might be a good idea to have a
Yeah,
roofer come out and look at it.
yeah,
And we really respect that.
yeah. And we're not alarmist out there. We don't
Mhm.
call for, there's other inspectors we hear that they call for a roofer on every house, a structural engineer on every house. Well, it's CYA out there.
Mhm.
And we've done this enough, like I said, over 5,400 inspections. We probably see more roofs than most roofers do out there. But we're not licensed roofers, but we can tell if it's been hit with hail and heavy surface wear and things like that. And just, I mean, a roof is one of those things that people don't look at. It's out of sight, out of mind. And if you notice all your neighbors are getting new roofs in the neighborhood, you might want to have a good reputable roofer come out and take a look at your roof.
Well, what's interesting as well is you guys are usually pretty accurate too. When you get up on a roof, you guys can pretty much tell, hey, this is 5 years old, 8 years old, and almost without fail, I look at it, and you guys are like within a year.
That's just part of that experience of looking at so many.
Hmm.
When you look at about 800 of them a year, you see patterns and you see things out there. Now, there's a few of those shingles out there, those class 4 heavy
Hmm.
comp shingles that wear really well, that can kind of trick you out there. And those are good too out there. So people should look at those class 4 because there's some insurance discounts out there. And with the insurance market right now
Oh
in
yeah.
Oklahoma, we're hearing horror stories out there with the insurance on roofs out there right now. if a roof is getting close to 10 years old, we heard a lot of insurance companies won't even insure the house.
Hmm. So I got one more question for you, then we'll wrap
Okay.
it up. Okay. New builds. Do you inspect a lot of new builds? And do you or don't you recommend inspections on new builds?
Actually, we did a new build yesterday, and we highly recommend new builds out there because a lot of times the builder's in a hurry. The last little thing, punch out and stuff yesterday, we found there was a hole punched in the the dishwasher drain line,
Hmm.
blowing water all underneath the sink. Well, guess what? The little girl would have moved in there. Guess what? She would have had a big flood.
Yeah.
Guess what? She would have had to pay to have somebody come fix that. And then people have issues with the mold and stuff. One of the issues we found on the roof yesterday on that new build, it didn't have any kickout flashing, where they'd done a transition from a standard traditional shingle to a rolled roofing. So we just recommended adding additional little kickout flashing, kind of kick that water out back away from the siding on the house there. So over time, that would rot the wood. You may have water running down that wall. So just a little cheap little piece of flashing on that. We've had builders where the sheetrock tape and texture mud guys dump all the sheetrock mud down the drain lines, and we've got there. I can think of 3 or 4 instances where that sewer drain line is backed up just because they dumped all the sheetrock texture mud down the drain lines in the house there. Um, Punch out items, things like that. I did a new construction last week where they did not hook up the condensate drain line, so the pan was already full of water. Well, guess what? That's going to shut off eventually,
Yeah.
and then you're going to have rust
Mhm.
in that pan. So just that simple check, it's worth that extra money to go back over the new construction there. And typically, it's so much easier to get the builder to make those repairs because if you submit that repair list before closing, Mr. Builder wants to get paid, and he's more willing to do those repairs. If you wait until after you move in the house, they're less reluctant to get back over there and make those little incidental repairs. So that's kind of why we recommend the new construction.
Well,
We've run into houses where on the roof they forgot to put the roof vents in there. Well, guess
oh
what?
wow.
The ventilation on your attic and that black shingle,
Mhm.
then your attic's going to be about 160 degrees, and then your air conditioner is going to run all summer long, increased electric bill. So just those simple things paid for itself on a new home construction inspection out there.
Well, Clinton, definitely appreciate you coming
Okay.
today and visiting with us. Is there a good contact number that our viewers can contact you at if they want to set up an inspection?
Yeah, our phone number is 405 347 1387. We typically answer our phone calls up till about 10 o'clock every night. Texting for crawling in an attic or underneath the house, you can text us. And we typically set up inspections, and we typically run about 3 to 5 business days out on our scheduling right now. So very easy to get us, and we're actually that company will answer a phone and return our phone calls.
Okay, guys, this is Clinton Betchen with Betchen Home Inspection. This guy's an amazing man. He's a good friend.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for coming.